2 different systems he's
Plus his
trying to
heart.
synchronize. And eventually, all this, I think I've said this 100 times, but eventually this is all going to end up where you push one button and it all pops up on 25 different
I
stations.
think that's what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
We're trying to add my system into yours. And so he's...
So
Kinda
we're
struggling.
doing a little mic check. I don't know if my phone, I went over, I plugged my stuff in trying to help him out, and he kind of shooed me away. He said, "You're going to screw it all up, Conrad. Get out of here." So Mom is rebounding well.
Yes, she's doing
awesome.
well. She's doing well. So fusion, a back fusion, 2 vertebrae, and the disc space was almost nothing, and so is hurting quite a bit of pain. So it's still quite a bit of pain, but as a matter of fact, it's probably comparable to like before her surgery now, which is not bad.
Anything from here on
is going to be getting better and better and better.
Well, good.
And so it's going good. As most surgeries, it's hard. It's frustrating because you can't see when you're in the midst of that. You can't see that improvement day to day. But when you look back to like last week, with all the tubes coming out of her, she came home a week ago today, and they took the tubes out a week ago.
Yeah.
She had tubes, drain tubes that were finally, that she had to stay an extra day because she had so much blood still coming out of the wound. And so they had to go in the side and try to do surgery from the side, and then took a piece of her hip bone to put in there for this fusion. And so that hurts, and then her back hurts, and she had 2 drains coming out of her back, and so
I had a lot of people, and we have not been able to talk to your wife into coming into the chamber.
she
Is she game coming around?
She may be, yes.
So for all of you out there that don't know, if you're going to have a scheduled procedure and you come in 2 times prior to your procedure, and then plan on 8 times post procedure, you will heal in 1/3 the time.
Okay, I told her that statistic.
1/3 the time. I mean, it's just incredible. And people go back to their orthopedic doctors and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
And some of my clients choose not to talk to their doctor about doing this thing that's off the reservation.
Right.
We good?
Okay.
On everything? Hey. So welcome to the next segment of welcome to the next segment of Hyperbaric Plus with my great friend Keith Bishop from PrevailOverCancer.com. And while you missed last week, I shared your name with lots of people.
Oh, good.
I can't believe how many people you would be a perfect fit to guide them in their health journey. So I missed you last week, and we had a lot of people asking about you. So you should be getting phone calls this week. I think I said he's kind of out of commission because of a surgery with his wife. But
correct. Yeah, it was. It was. As a matter of fact, it's been a busy couple of weeks.
I bet.
And so between her surgery, helping her, and appointments, and matter of fact, another person wanted to know if they could send out an email promoting what I do, and I said, not yet. So I'm playing catch up right now, and so very busy and swamped. But and I help people with all kinds of problems. So people with cancer have all kinds of problems,
right?
And everything from we go through lab tests to digestive issues to brain issues to their pinky toe hurting. I mean, whatever. So
something I never thought to ask, if I'm going to do because you offer a 15-minute consult just to see if it's the right thing to do, if you're a good fit. Is it beneficial to send you labs prior to that 15 minutes, or is that something you don't really take the time to do?
It kind of depends on time. It's hard for me to really spend much time on that, and so I offer a free 15-minute initial.
Maybe a 10,000 foot. This is what I've been dealing with.
More general. I need more general things. We have time in 15 minutes to cover a couple of questions, type of a thing.
I got you.
And for I do that as an initial free session, and but the goal is actually to answer a couple of questions and to kind of see if we're a good fit.
Right. And then if that does move forward and you take on it an hour at a time, I guess your initial consult would be lengthy.
Often it is that way. Often, sometimes due to finances, some people, or maybe they just have 1 or 2 more questions, and so I have a 15, a 30, and a 60-minute and a 2-hour. And so I have some people actually, if we're going into depth for cancer, 2 hours is actually a common type thing, and even then we have follow-ups type of a thing often.
So what is that, just so people know, because I don't even know what to tell my clients, and I don't know if you want to divulge here on our podcast, but what is that 2-hour time frame? Because when you and I have talked about the numbers before, I'm used to hearing numbers that are like crazy. And you are so you're so approachable, and it's not crazy numbers. So what do you charge for that 2-hour consult?
So the 2 hours is expensive. Yeah. And so, for 1 hour I charge $240. And so I know other practitioners that are charging $600.
Yeah.
Okay. And so,
but once you establish that baseline and you've got all these records, now you're talking 15-minute intervals.
Oh, yeah. And I have a lot of guides I send out. And so, matter of fact, that's another thing I was talking to another person too about, about office load, practice load, about how many people that I see. But I've got a lot of guides. And so instead of spending 30 minutes explaining one concept, here's a guide.
Yeah. Let me answer the questions after you read this.
Exactly.
Now,
so
is it fair to say that a lot of people don't want to read?
Yes, and that is true. And some people
they don't want to do
really
any of
don't
that.
want to do that. And I've had some people say, well, okay, they'll come reach it back out then after a day or two and say, Keith, I got more questions on that. So yeah, that can happen definitely. And so matter of fact, even with AI nowadays, you can find out a lot of stuff with AI. Okay.
Well, so one of our clients in here is talking about how dumb AI has been getting over the last year.
It has, and
because everybody's putting dumb stuff in it.
That's right.
Dumb goes in and dumb's going to come
so
out.
all kinds of stuff is on the internet. It only knows what it finds on the internet, and so
got to be careful.
Has to be careful about that. But actually, that's why like things like this, these live type things are so important. People like that. And they want customized information. So speaking of customization, so we're going to, if you have questions, submit your questions, and so Ryan's going to help us with that, and we'll print those off, so we'll cover those at the end of the, as a little Q&A. So people need customized information instead of just generic or this not cookbook, but I mean just a list of things. So
I replicate scuba diving, and we don't get wet, but that's what I know. I know how to do the hyperbaric chamber, and that's all my depth goes. And you're not a doctor. You're not your doctor.
Correct.
You're just giving advice. I'm trying to do a disclaimer, and I should let you do that real quick, and then we'll move on.
So we are not your doctor, and so the information we're providing is for educational purposes only. And so if you have any questions about things, check with your healthcare team. We'll put it that way, because some say an integrative team that are willing to work with you, present that information to them, work with your team, and check with your team before you make changes to your health program.
We want to help you we want to help you create those questions for your provider, because you got a little bit of knowledge. That's what this is all about.
Exactly. And and doctors are getting a little bit better, compared to 3 years ago. There was a lot of pushback, and now the public, you are knowing a lot more, and doctors are recognizing that, and they're not quite so, don't push back quite as much.
Well, the ones that are, now we've got more opportunity to go someplace that isn't.
Exactly.
And so
more and more
that's
changing.
what I'm seeing change.
Yeah, more and more changing. So
something we talk about, and you were talking about a guide earlier, so we're going to get into what one of your long guides are going to be about, and that is when you pick up something that you're going to purchase at the store, and it's got a list of things that are in that, we call that ultra-processed food.
Right. Ultra-processed, right.
And so when I pick up stuff that I buy, it says celery. If I buy sardines, it says sardines and extra virgin olive oil. That's the only things I buy. And I've made this aware in the chamber several times, and people have said, Paul, that's been so profound. Now I go to the store, and all I remember is you talking about that in the chamber, and I put it back.
Yeah.
And so buy those things that are whole foods.
So typically now, where in the store do you find that?
Around the perimeter.
Around the perimeter.
If you walk through the middle of it, if I see you in the middle of a store, you better be looking for maybe nuts
nuts, sardines.
Yeah, sardines are going to be,
there's a
because
couple
it's
of them,
canned. Yeah.
canned items like
Yeah.
that. There, yes, there can be a few items
Yeah.
like that. Honey and there can be good things, but
One of these days, I'm going to follow Keith through a store. I want to catch him before he's checking out, so I can see what's in his cart. But anyway, let's get into this.
yes,
We've kind of messed
exactly.
around a little bit now.
Processed foods, and so and so processed foods, I believe, is the number one cause of accelerated aging, heart attacks, strokes, being overweight, cancers, and everything. I think back to the pictures. I'm not old enough, of course, about World War II, but I think back to seeing pictures of my relatives as they were going into World War II. Bean poles.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were thin.
Yep.
And also, the food they ate was simple.
Yep. And they didn't eat much food.
Exactly. And so the hamburger back then was,
Yeah.
Like this. It
Yeah,
was not big.
quarter pounder was that was a marketable idea. We're going to make a quarter pounder hamburger.
Right.
Now what are they? I don't
know. Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
And so, but the hamburgers were only that big. The soda pop, when soda pops were coming out, it was an 8-ounce bottle.
Yeah.
And not a metal can lined with plastic.
Right.
And things like that. So it's much different. We didn't, as a child, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, we didn't go out to eat until I was in high school. And so.
And it was a big deal.
It was a big deal.
I mean, you remember it.
Yeah, and I remember that place, besides the A&W root beer place that we'd stop on the way home from a ball game or something. So that was it. But everything was smaller, and so now food has changed. And matter of fact, I do remember my mother's parents. My grandfather, he'd stop on the way home from work every day and pick up food for the day, for the 24 hours. They had a refrigerator.
Well, that's why we got market. And when you're looking at people in New York City, they stop at the vegetable, the little bitty market at the bottom of the building they live in, and they grab things for dinner that night.
Exactly.
And it's fresh.
It's fresh. And so a lot of countries are still like that. Like, for example, one of my clients, she actually lived in Spain for a while, didn't have a car. She worked there, but they had mass transportation, so she could walk to the subway and get to another location. But they walked everywhere. But she'd stop at the market and pick up things. And then she came back to the United States. She started having more problems, and she said it was so much healthier being in this other country. And so and actually where we're at in Oklahoma City, this is a prime test market for fast food restaurants.
Oh, man.
Because we're so spread out.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Now, and actually one of the things I love to do is actually go to this little tiny grocery store, but it's actually kind of small, just a spot that they were able to get in Yukon, which is a small town in west of Oklahoma City, Sprouts. It's a little market. But they've got everything we need, and I love going there. It's the people are friendly, fresh foods, a lot of organic stuff, not everything, but a lot of organic things, and even some flowers. I mean, it's a neat environment that you don't get when you go to these gigantic stores.
It's all processed foods.
Yeah, processed foods, a lot of processed foods. So I want to go through a list. And so, by the way, at prevailovercancer.com in the Learning Center, my handout, and this also at hyperbaric.plus.
So at hyperbaric.plus, if you go to our resource page and you scroll down, you'll see all of our classes.
Okay, good.
And you can print the PDFs, and it says podcasts.
Okay, good.
And you click on that, and there's all of our classes for 2 years.
Right. Okay.
It's quite a library.
Great. Yes. So you can download this guide. So you may not be able to write everything down, but you can definitely watch this again. So we're recording these, and they're going to be available. There's actually on several different channels now. For example, YouTube Live, on my YouTube channel, there's a live button, and we're starting to post these on that too. Right. So, with that, so Ryan's helping us out. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
So on that. But so here's the deal about processed foods, ultra processed and I'm going to have two categories I'm basically going to talk about today. Is that processed foods increase the risk of many different health issues. And so I'll go through this. I'm going through the list because I want to make sure I cover everything, because I want, if you go, oh, I know somebody or I have this problem, then pay attention. So, type 2 diabetes, obesity and metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, fatty liver disease, cancer risks. Matter of fact, all cancers, colorectal cancer especially. Consuming ultra-processed foods increases the risk by 29%. That's why we have a problem. And so once again, when I grew up, we didn't have processed foods. Now, the generation, the people that are 40 years old, they've grown up with processed foods, and now their cancer rate is much higher. For especially for colorectal, because that food, we were talking about that earlier. About processed meats, and meat is a little bit more difficult to digest. It stays in the intestines longer. If it's processed and has the preservatives in it and other chemicals, that stays in the intestines, leaching out, slowly leaching out, and damaging the cells and causing that. But all the cancers, breast cancer and ovarian and prostate and pancreatic, and also, matter of fact, a higher processed foods increases the risk of cancer death by 25%. So yes, it does make a difference changing your food, and making a switch. So, after you're diagnosed, make that change and start doing better.
Well, how about if we change it before we're ever diagnosed?
Yeah, exactly. That's part of the goal. That's part of the goal.
That's why we're here.
And I have a tendency to think the other way because everybody I see has got major problems. So on that, and then also brain health, another area that you really concentrate a lot on, with your
brain mapping,
neurofeedback, and biomodulation and things like that. But get this, depression, ultra-processed foods increases the risk of depression by 44%.
Isn't that crazy? That is nuts.
44.
Well, that's why, and I know you're not a big fan of the yogurt because of your space in cancer.
Right.
Because a lot of the yogurt is dairy derived.
For men, yeah.
But when you get into the microbes that come with the yogurt, if you make your own, the gut health changing because the gut and brain's connected. I can't believe how many of my crazy veterans go, my relationships are better.
Maybe they're not quite so crazy.
Well, meaning
I know.
They can't believe they're calming down.
Exactly, yes.
It's inflammation. You're just calming down, and you're giving the brain what it wants.
That's
so,
right.
Anyway.
Inflammation is a major driver. So even in PTSD, there's actually studies showing that people that had physical trauma, and actually they were testing this in prisoners, prisoners of war, and those prisoners of war that had anxiety and depression and major mental issues had significant inflammatory chemicals that were very, very high. And they would actually do an alternative type treatment and bring those inflammatory chemicals down, and they didn't have as much problem.
Right.
And PTSD and depression, anxiety, things like that.
They did another study in the prison system because why are people... A lot of veterans end up in jail. And why is that? Because they got a fuse this long because they're inflamed. They've got, PTSD, TBIs, all those things wrapped into one creates anxiety, depression.
Right.
And that's what PTSD is. So they did a study in the prison system that a vast majority of the prisoners have had trauma in their background, which led to PTSD, depression.
Right.
And it's crazy. How do we turn that around?
Yeah. And so we don't want to be feeding that, definitely. And then we have to be careful and pay attention to how much adipose tissue that we have. And so excess adipose tissue makes inflammatory chemicals. So, and the processed foods feeds that problem.
Are you talking about visceral fat? Is that part
actually, yeah, either one, but yes, any type of...
What is adipose, if you don't mind?
Adipose just means body fat. Okay. Visceral adipose tissue, it means it's from around the organs and pushing out.
Right.
And then there's subcutaneous, which is more like, this right here, okay, in that area. But any of the body fat does make inflammatory chemicals. And so actually, depression, anxiety, cognitive decline and dementia, attention deficit, that whole broad area, and disrupted sleep even. So, and then gut immune things that we just barely touched on earlier, but bad bacteria, microbiome issues, leaky gut, chronic inflammation, weakened NK and T cell, activity comes from gut issues.
Right.
Okay, those are two of the major cells that get rid of cancer.
Right.
So we've got to be supporting our gut health, and then autoimmune risk. So matter of fact, I have a history of rheumatoid arthritis, but I've made enough changes, and I quit eating certain foods, and I feel great now. And matter of fact, I had both my hips replaced, and part of that was probably due to rheumatoid arthritis.
I have a lot of people that find us because they've got inflammation and they want to deal with the inflammation. They see online that hyperbarics will help do that. So on their first trip in here, they go, well, this will help with my arthritis, with my inflammation. And I go, yeah, it will, but I got to ask you a question. When you get out of this chamber, are you going to go eat pizza?
Uh-oh, yeah.
And when they say, yeah, or bread, yeah, or noodles or pastas, yeah, that's my diet. Well, then don't waste your money. I would rather not have you as a client because you're not going to change your lifestyle.
Okay. You're
going to tell people you don't get anything out of this. Well, you do. But if you don't change those other things, you're not going to see the benefit. It literally is that simple. So that's a big step for a lot of people.
It is. It's in a difficult step. It really is. And so, but it's a step. And we have to start making those changes.
Right.
So that's kind of the goal. What I'm trying to do today is that, what are some of the basic things that we need to do? And I mentioned kind of like the higher risks, health issues. I mean, all the things that we're concerned about in our life and feeling bad and earlier death caused by these foods. Okay, so we got to be very careful. So now I'm going to go back to the first page. So that was kind of, I wanted to throw that in real quick. So reading the food label. So there's estimated that about 50 to 60% of our calories in the United States comes from processed foods or ultra processed foods, and the average packaged item has 20 items, 20 ingredients in it. And matter of fact, I see that, and I look at those labels. And matter of fact, I did a video on social media about actually an old salad dressing bottle I found in the back of our pantry, and that was expired, and because we hadn't been using it, and it had like 20 different ingredients in it. Because actually, I've switched. I use olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and salt and pepper. Basic. Once again, simple. KISS. Keep it super simple.
Oh, yeah.
And so we got to keep it simple. So, but once we start making those changes and start walking around and concentrating on the outer aisles of the grocery store to get the produce and get the meat and the dairy items, all those things that are on the outside, those are the healthy foods. That's what we need to concentrate on. So, so reading the label. So you have to kind of consider the serving size. So even supplements, it's very frustrating because a serving size is important. So we have to consider that, and try to estimate that. So is a serving size a tablespoon, or is it 2 tablespoons or 3? And sometimes we have to do some math, but I don't really even get into that. But don't be tricked.
Pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, another thing too, just because it says natural, don't.
That's the umbrella for 100 chemicals.
Exactly. Natural flavorings, is like many different things that are currently allowed. I'm hoping that will change, but so we have to be very careful about that. So let's see. So typically, they list, I believe they're supposed to list the first ingredient is what is most the largest quantity in that product is going to be the first. So you look at that, and so that kind of helps out and gives you an idea. So if it says sugar, fructose, and
corn
things
syrup,
like that, corn syrup,
right off the
those
bat.
are the first things. That's not good. So since I mentioned sugar, so here's the sugar thing. It's a major concern, and actually they try to hide that term, and they'll use other terms for these sugars. And so I'll go through these very quickly, but high fructose corn syrup, sucrose, dextrose, maltose, fructose, agave, and that's natural, but we have to be careful. Agave is, it's sweet, but it's a lot of calories. And so be careful about that. Barley malt, rice syrup, corn syrup solids, maltodextrin, evaporated cane juice. Once again, kind of like a natural thing, but, it's processed. And then fruit juice concentrate. So those are just a few things. There's actually more than 60.
So how do you process? I mean, that's something you haven't said yet. So when you process, you're using a lot of times.
Yes. Oh,
Solvents.
yes, exactly. Oh, yes. So,
So
processing.
let's talk about what
that.
does
Yes.
processing mean.
So processing means, so even a lot of things they actually will take. Well, let's take cane sugar, and so that cane sugar, it's not like we're eating that cane. Like years ago, they showed that little boy running through the field and he's chomping on that sugar cane. That's not the product, and so they actually grind it, bake it, solvents, to get to that pure white, and bleaching and things like that to get that pure white. Actually, they don't use cane anymore. They use beets and things like this. So yes, it is a natural product, but there's a lot of solvents. Do they wash all the solvents out? There's no way to wash all the solvents out. And the solvents are actually bad. And they don't have to put that on the label either. Yeah. It's not listed as an ingredient.
So when you see processed, there's a good possibility there's solvents involved.
Yes, exactly.
So you got to think about the words. They're not going to put on there that we extracted this with solvents.
Correct. They don't have to either.
Yeah, they're not going to put that on there, but they're going to say processed.
Yeah. So that's another reason. So we got to keep it simple, on that. So ultra processed foods. So when we look at a label, if there's more than 5 ingredients, that is definitely a ultra processed food. Okay. If there's more than 3, we've got to be very careful. As a matter of fact, I forgot to bring my props today. I had them setting out. I was running late and I forgot to pick them up. But things like cottage cheese, like Daisy, has a brand of cottage cheese, Daisy brand cheese, cottage cheese, and it's just dairy, cultures, and salt. That's it. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what we need. Other brands of cottage cheese have emulsifiers, mono and diglycerides, guar gum, and things like this. That's what we got to be careful about. And yes, so we just need to read the label. Once you read the label, you don't have to keep doing that every time.
And the more that we do that, believe me, the stores aren't going to carry the stuff that sits on the shelf.
Correct.
We drive the boat.
We do drive the boat. We drive the market. And matter of fact, we're seeing a lot of changes. And
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'll give a shout out to I think her handle's the Food Babe. She's driving a lot of this, and so she's been very successful at.
A lot of influencers on
exactly.
the YouTube channels that are going through Costco and going through Sprouts and going to Aldi. I just saw one on Aldi, and they're going through and they're calling out the bad stuff, and they're kind of looking around while they're calling it out. But if you leave it sitting on the shelf, it won't be there next time.
Exactly.
They're going to put more of that stuff
that people are buying.
And she's showing all the empty shelves on the things that she wants to promote. The shelves are empty.
So so I bought some cottage cheese. My wife wanted cottage cheese, and we're at Sprouts, and it's like I had to reach way back because it was all almost gone.
Yep.
There was like 2 more left.
Yep.
And that was Sunday, and so it's like people are buying the better things.
We drive the boat. You pick up a box of macaroni and cheese. You ever look at a macaroni and cheese?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The box of it's incredible how many ingredients are in that.
That's right.
So that it'll keep.
I have that setting aside as a prop, so that I can go back to it every once in a while and make another video about that. So a major problem. So let's talk about that too. So unprocessed and minimally processed, so fruits and vegetables and meat and nuts and eggs, wonderful. That's natural food, it's whole food, that's what we should be eating.
And not roasted seeds and salted seeds, and you really need to define that.
Look at those ingredients. And so if it says it has peanut.
No, buy raw.
Oh, yeah, buy raw.
Raw, organic.
You can roast it yourself in the oven. Yeah. My granddad, he used to do that.
Yeah.
It was peanuts. He'd buy raw peanuts and put them in the oven and would roast them for a couple of hours. At a low temperature. Even the oven was open. It wasn't like extremely hot anyway.
And if they're shelled nuts, what I like to do is get a container with a little olive oil in there, then pour them out on a baking sheet, and then put my
spices. Exactly.
I love cayenne pepper on my seeds. It's awesome, and I did it all myself. I don't have to buy that stuff.
Yes. So we'll take fruit and all kinds of fruit and some veggies and things like that, and we often have a dehydrator going, and we put all kinds of our own spices on there. That
organic
and
fruit,
salt, organic, and do the best you can.
Yeah,
we can't always get organic, but once again, we drive the market, and we're going to keep seeing better choices.
If you quit buying the stuff that's not organic, they'll have more organic.
Exactly. So, and there can be good oils, olive oil and avocado oil.
Coconut.
oil. Those are kind of like those are the three I've got. Matter of fact, I made a post about I had to go go back and find the salad dressing because we don't even have corn oil, canola oil. We don't have anything like that in the house, and so I didn't want to go buy one either. So I had this salad dressing that I did find, and so I put it back into my prop room.
So we're building a recipe book, and two of the women that dive with me sent me absolutely the same recipe for mayo and for Greek dressing, okay? And one of them was avocado oil, and the other one was olive oil.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to call it an argument, but they had a discussion of why the avocado oil for Greek dressing was so much better than the olive oil, because olive oil can have a bite to it.
It can, yes.
If you have the real deal,
good one, yes.
Yeah, if you have the real deal olive oil, it can have a little bite to it.
Matter of fact, I was actually a little bit frustrated. I bought one that looked good, and then I tasted it, and it's like,
yeah, not gonna.
It's not. Yeah. That's not good. Yeah. So that even though it looked good on the label, but it was
not. If it doesn't have a darkened glass bottle, don't even pick it up.
Well, this one did too, but it had everything.
And,
like I said,
everything what I was going to say is the first line that I cross is a darkened
glass bottle.
But then you have to really dig into where did it come from.
Yep.
And so there's a lot to it. And then when you open it up, does it smell peppery? I mean,
that was this.
That peppery.
This had no peppery. And so, and no smell and almost no taste.
Dead oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Dead oil.
So even though it looked like it was good. So, okay, processed foods. So if it's in a package or whether it be a can or a box or a bag, we have to be very careful about it. So now, even cheeses can be processed. They put anti-caking ingredients in shredded cheeses.
So I don't buy shredded cheese anymore because of you educating us.
Yeah.
So I grind up 2 pound. I get 2 2-pound blocks and grind it up and separate it. And I try not to eat cheese. I mean, I've really cut back on my cheese big time because it's got so much salt in it. I mean, there's a lot of sodium in cheese.
A lot of sodium, yeah.
In the inexpensive cheese.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
I also started buying hard cheese.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we're doing, buying hard cheese.
And I got one of them little grinders, stainless.
Yes, correct.
So I got a little stainless grinder, and I make the cheese up as I want to use it.
Exactly, yeah. And it stays fresher, as a whole block.
Or
better.
If you need to scrape the mold off, you scrape the mold off and keep on going.
Yeah.
Because those hard cheeses will get a mold on it before you use it up.
How they make it. That's how they make it.
Yeah.
That's the deal. So the worst foods, okay, chips, cereals, deli meats, fast food, and sodas. Okay, so if you're going to start with something, that is the place to start. Everything, even though we've talked about several different things, but those particular items are the most important. Those packaged items and that have more than 5 ingredients.
How about the avocado oil chips? Avocado oil and sea salt.
Sea salt and chip.
And if you have to have a chip, don't start with anything less than that.
Yeah. So exactly. Once again.
So Costco sells 3 or 4 avocado oil fried chips nowadays.
Yeah. So a healthier option.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say. 100%.
I still don't do it.
Not 100%, but yes, much healthier. So we have to make those healthier choices.
But if we all just bought that, there'd be more of it.
Right. Exactly. So I have more information on like troubling ingredients, on here, and actually it's kind of small print because I'm trying to squeeze it all on. By the way, if you have any questions, primarily I'm thinking about food labels, but any other questions, submit those so Ryan can print that off. But we're going to, I'm going to kind of highlight a couple of things. I think that's probably the most important, and that's going to be the high fructose corn syrup, which is in soda, it's in bread, condiments, cereals, candy. That's another major, area also. And so that's going to increase liver fat and insulin resistance, and it feeds cancer. So we got to be very careful about those. Hydrogenated fats and trans fats, they do list those, and they can actually have, this is what's frustrating, the law allows it, if it has less than 1 gram per serving, they don't have to list it.
And so in a little box, there's 500 servings.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how they, I mean,
know.
if you look at the serving size, that's how so much of this is cheating.
That's right. Yeah. And so
Because-
you have to look at the total fats
Yeah.
and say, well, that's not making sense.
Yeah.
Here's the total fats, and this is how much of a, other fats, trans fats, it says 0, but that's not adding
So you
up.
get if you look at a bag of chips, the serving size, and there's like 40 servings in a bag of chips. Well, that's 4 chips.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to do the math because
And so along that lines, because chips, snack things are such a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
And almost every single chip I've ever seen, each chip is at least 10 calories. How many calories are we burning right now per hour?
And why is it you cannot eat just one?
Well, because of the spices, the science behind it.
Well, how did the tobacco industry end up in the food industry? I can see you don't want to say anything.
I want to be careful about some of those things, but yes, but it's they flavor things, and they know and they test so that what the people want and how they like it and how they want to eat it.
Just one.
Exactly.
And they make sure of it.
And so, but we're only like right now, we're burning. You're bigger than me. You have a lot more muscle than me. You're burning 100 calories right now an hour.
Okay.
If you have more than 10 chips, you're going to start making excess body fat above 10 chips.
Well, I don't eat chips, but anyway, I get it.
Chips,
I get it.
In that. So we have to be, so chips, because of also the seed oils as part of that, what they fry them in,
Right.
A very serious concern. Once again, roasting and doing some other good fats are great options, on that. And then preserved meats, sodium nitrites. And so, when I take a hog in to have it processed, we don't do that. They don't add the nitrates to our meat. And so we just have them add salt.
I used to hunt wild pigs all the time, and I couldn't believe, there's some things you want to do before you process that wild pig, which I did with the Department of Ag, and I had all my sportsman's buddies doing it too. But when you pressure cook that, so I had my restaurant style pressure cooker, and man, you'd grab the ham hock after you cook that meat and it just came off, and then you used pulled pork, is
right.
what that was, and it didn't taste like pork because it hadn't been processed.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was a new experience.
Yes.
Taking that wild boar and eating it.
And that's where, a lot of people, don't like wild game because it's different, but it's just different. And so we do develop tastes and get used to things with that. So, matter of fact, the processor that I was using, he'd actually never had anybody complain about that. So which is sad.
Yep.
So he had to go look at his box of the preservatives that they use, and because he didn't know what was in it, even he just pours it out, and pours it into that process. So there's also preservatives. There's so many things that we could talk about, on that are concerns for this. But once again, read that because we could have a seminar almost on every single item. In that we've done that on some of these items. But then I do want to present a positive thing to start.
Hey, there you go.
Let's concentrate on the positive thing. So we talked about oils like extra virgin olive oil, try to get organic, avocado oil, grass-fed butter, and ghee. Great items. And then I have the list of things to avoid. So once again, I'm going to present the better items. So you can start making those changes. And even if it's just one item a week, once a week, that's 52 items. That's probably half of what you're eating. In a year, you can make that much of a change by doing that. So breads, once again, kind of look for, whole grains. Ezekiel sprouted sourdoughs are lower carbs for those wanting to go lower carbs. We don't even have bread in our house. We don't eat bread. And so we just don't need that. We actually, we had some friends came over, and so he's a hunter, and so and they came over for dinner one night, and actually we just grilled hamburgers and put it on a salad, and he thought, this is great. You never had that before.
And you put a little of that homemade Greek salad.
Yeah.
And stir that whole
great.
thing up. I mean, the way I make salads, I put a little of that homemade salad, no oil salads, or oil and vinegar. I use it quite a bit. but you put it in that bowl and you stir the whole thing up like they
Right.
serve the salad at some of the restaurants.
Yes, like kind of like a Caesar salad. Yeah, Caesar salad type thing.
Because when you coat all that with a very thin amount of oil, man, it makes it so.
It
And then
does.
you put spice on it, it makes it so flavorful.
Right.
You don't have to. Anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead. You're making me hungry.
I know.
Let's go eat afterwards.
Exactly. So I've been fasting 16 hours now, 17 hours. So I am getting kind of hungry. So on that. And then protein, pasture raised eggs and organic if at all possible, wild caught fish, grass fed beef, and be careful about anything else on that. Now, protein also, it could be canned sardines, So actually, one of my questions and concerns is about plastic linings in the sardines. And so actually when they cook those sardines, the temperature is actually so low that it is not a major issue for the plastics leaching into the sardines. And actually it's more like a steam process, and that heat only goes up to a certain point. Right. There's actually a term for that process. I can't remember that term, but so I'm not as concerned about that. About the plastic leaching into that.
I'm getting ready to do a sardine fast that is becoming popular, and it's 5 days, 3 cans a day, and that's all you're doing. Yeah. And anyway, I did a deep dive into sardines, and I found the one that I'm going to eat, because I couldn't believe, even though I thought all these were great.
Right.
Again, dig down into it and you'll find the best. I want to find the best.
Yeah. So which one did you like?
King's.
King?
Yeah, it's
okay.
I think it's called I can't remember the name. I ordered it. I said, honey, get me a package of this. So she ordered 24 of them.
Okay, yeah, it comes in multiples usually anyway.
Yeah.
So
and when you buy it online in bulk like that, it's much more inexpensive.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, I want to know more about that. So I like sardines. So, okay. So let's see. This person says, I'm Polish, a lot of fermented foods and pork. I sub the pork, but thought the fermented foods were good for probiotics. Should it be salt fermented instead of vinegar, apple cider vinegar? I'm not sure I quite understand this, but there are processes for apple cider vinegar type pickling and fermenting, and then there's others like sauerkraut and kimchi and things like that, which are more like a salt based. And some people actually will do a little bit of apple cider vinegar or apples even in that to help out with a little bit different type of a bacteria balance. So actually, I think all of those are great. So, matter of fact, I would love for you to send me some.
Yeah, you can't hardly go bad if you're doing
exactly.
If you're fermenting properly.
Yeah, fermenting right, and have to admit sometimes we fermented and it didn't go right.
I mean, when it's not right.
And so on that. So another person said, "Thanks for what you guys do." Isn't that neat?
Thank you.
Oh, great. Yeah, you're welcome.
We enjoy the heck out of this.
We do. It's fun. It's fun. And so. Balsamic vinegar, please explain difference in vinegars and fermented. How does this relate to acidic environment? I'm not concerned about the acidity on these items. So balsamic vinegar and apple cider vinegar, are a couple of different ones, and they're made in different processes. I'm not concerned about them, in normal amounts. The balsamic vinegar, there's something about on some of those that may have, maybe because of where they're coming from, a little bit of a lead issue, but there's a lot of foods. We're learning now that foods have toxic metals along with good minerals. And so, but I do actually balsamic vinegar 3 or 4 times a week, with that. And we will use apple cider vinegar in all kinds of stuff. And so I reserve the distilled vinegar, more like a processed vinegar, and I use that as my weed killer. So high strength.
It's what is it, 12%?
At least 12 and you can get 35 or 30%.
There is an industrial vinegar that works as well as Roundup.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is amazing.
Why are we buying Roundup when we can kill it with vinegar?
Cracks in the concrete and stuff like that, and around the house and stuff like that. It's great. So anyway, but food. Some foods are acidic, but then the type of acid that they are is not a type that's going to raise our acidity. So once our body starts digesting it, breaking it down, the net result of all the other ingredients in it is not a major impact. So, for example, coffee is slightly acidic, If we test it compared to plain water that was made with, it's a little bit more acidic. But I've had people do everything right, and it did not change their pH level. So actually, blood is always going to be the same. I've seen urine and saliva pH, but it's actually our breathing that has an impact. So if you're concerned about acid and cancer, actually you need to evaluate your kidney function and your breathing. Those are the two organs that control the acidity. More so, although unless you're not absorbing nutrients. So you can also be in a state where you're not, if you don't have enough, this sounds weird, if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid in your stomach, you're not going to digest the food, and then you're going to become acidic. So when the hydrochloric acid in your stomach mixes with the food, it's actually neutralized and it's no longer acid. So, so I'm not too concerned actually about the vinegars and things like that. And let's see, this person said took the CEA test, and that is a general cancer marker, and said they in August it was a 2 and now tested at 3.3. Should that be a concern? Well, I'm not your medical doctor, so I can't say that specifically, but if we do see a little bit of an increase in CEA, that could be a concern, and you need to evaluate that further. And sometimes that is more like a general marker for colon, colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, several cancers. It is a D test to be done. There's other ones called CA and then some numbers. And so sometimes the CA and then a series of numbers and dot numbers, that may be more indicative of a cancer concern, but it is something that you do need to have checked out.
Yep.
So
dig a little deeper.
And somebody says, I'm liking the video quality. Thank you, Ryan.
Hey,
So he's actually in the production booth. He has his own little booth now, production booth. So thank you. Tell them why this causes cataracts. And so I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to, but
well, seed oils is a big provider of cataract.
Yeah, seed oils are oxidized. Yeah. So cataracts are caused by oxidation of the lens, in the eye. And when that oxidation starts occurring, it starts turning cloudy. And so, but excessive oxidation, is a problem. Once that lens starts changing, I don't know of a way to recover it.
There's a lot of if you'll get into YouTube's, there's a lot of vision doctors that talk about how to reverse your cataracts. Okay. I think even Dr. Berg has several videos on how you can
address.
It's one thing to reverse something. It's another thing to know you're headed that way.
Right. And start making those changes.
And start making those changes, because the farther you get down that road, the harder it is to get back. So
that's correct.
On anything, I mean, just go on and do a little research.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people just will not take the time to educate themselves.
Right.
I always tell all my clients in here, the reason you see all these videos in my newsletters is because I watch videos till my eyes bleed all hour. If I can't go back to sleep, I'm watching videos that might help my clients, and then I share those videos. And I don't post everything I watch. I validate it. And there's some people I will do, and some people I won't.
That's right. Yeah.
So don't believe everything you see on TV.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
dig.
Exactly.
This is a good one.
I don't know if I'm going to say that one. Well, so I may skip that one. So.
Okay.
It does happen. So things do happen inside the chamber, and yes, if you pass gas in the chamber, oh well, that's just part of life. That's part of our body. So things happen.
Yeah.
So I think
there's some things you just can't control. That's the way it goes.
Single ingredient foods, is that possible? Definitely.
So I try to. I make fun of people in the chamber that if you pick it up and it has more than one ingredient, put it back.
Eggs, nuts, seeds, meat. Oils. You can actually mix a few things together in a dish.
Celery,
if you want.
romaine lettuce. I mean,
vegetables,
carrots.
apples. I mean everything. Yeah. Yes, there are a lot of single.
And when you mix
foods.
all those things up your way,
number
one, you get what you want.
Exactly.
And number two, you chose all the ingredients, so you shouldn't be putting bad stuff in there.
That's right. Yeah.
So I mean, anyway.
Yeah.
Don't get me going again.
Definitely can get single source foods. As a matter of fact, my grocery cart is like packed with that. All the time.
Hey, when you're in the store, just look around at the people that are shopping with you and go, I used to be that person.
Okay.
And you want to go up and say, just look at my cart and look at your cart. Which one of us is going to live longer?
Right.
I mean, it's literally that simple. But you can't say that. So,
It's time to
well, hey,
we
we
gotta
are
go.
definitely pushed up to the wall. Keith, Ryan is not going to be here next week.
Oh, okay.
So, don't know really what we're going to do. If you're going to have a show, what you ought to do is invite me out to your place, and I'll take my camera and do Facebook Live from your place.
Okay.
And you can walk us around why
Walk
you
around,
live
yeah,
where you
okay.
do.
Mhm.
He's Mr. Outdoorsman. He's
Oh, yeah, I
on
love
he's
it.
on his horses all the time,
Yes.
and he lives next door to a dairy farm that he knows why
I
he
used
doesn't.
to. I used to. I moved away
you
from
meant-
him. I moved
for
away
that
from
reason.
that. Yes, I
For that
moved
reason.
away from that, and so the first opportunity I had,
It was
you know.
it's a very well-known dairy farm here in central Oklahoma that he saw how much spraying they were doing for all the cattle and so anyway,
Milk products
it's
and
eye opener, isn't it?
yeah,
Makes you have a different. So that's why I make my own ice cream.
right. Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
So anyway, thank you all for being here. This
Yes,
is
thank
Keith
you.
with PrevailOverCancer.com. I'm Paul with Hyperbaric.plus. Come see us. We're at 122nd and May in Oklahoma City, and we love doing this. If there's something you want us to cover, send that to us in a question. If there's something we haven't touched on yet, we'd love to get some feedback, and we can cover those topics.
Exactly.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Keith.
Yeah,
See you later.
thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. That's neat. Somebody even called you out. Like the video quality.
How about that?
I'll take that.